welcome to TTELT, Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers. I'm Dr. Gina Rhodes. Let's get started. This week we're going to focus on what is student engagement. Why aren't students motivated in your class? It could be that they don't feel that English is important to their studies. Often we're teaching courses where the students aren't taking English because they necessarily want to learn English, but because English is a requirement for what they really want to study. If you're teaching in a university, maybe they're more motivated by their engineering courses or their mathematics courses or their arts courses, but English is a requirement they have to pass, so they might necessarily be motivated in your classroom because it's not their reason for being at the university. Maybe they're not interested in the content. Maybe it's that the topics that you are required or that you've selected to discuss aren't something that they're necessarily interested in. Maybe they've been unsuccessful in English in the past and they just assume that they're not going to be successful in your class because English is just not something they're good at. And more often, it could be that they want to be motivated, but they're distracted by Facebook and WhatsApp and YouTube, and this has become even bigger problem now that most of our classes are online. Do you have other ideas? What are some reasons that you think your students aren't motivated to participate or to do well in your class? So we're going to talk more about what student engagement is. So when we talk about this motivation for our students, Dornyei defines student engagement as motivation plus active learning. And I learned about this from Dornyei's keynote speech at the TESOL International Convention in Chicago in 2018. He talked all about this and about an upcoming book that he had written about the topic. And in this book, he writes that learner engagement in class is connected to attitudes and beliefs stemming from a host of contextual factors that affect both the learner and the school. And this is from the book Mercer&Dornyei, and it was just recently released this year. And it's called Engaging Students in Contemporary Classrooms. And again, because we're online, this connection to the school can be even more challenging because our students aren't in the school, they're at home, and so that connection can easily be lost. And it's important for us as teachers to be thinking about how we can do that. And let's talk more specifically about all the ways that our students need to be connected so that they can have active student engagement. It involves engaging with the school context, as we were just talking about. The language, they need to be engaged with the target language itself, which for us is English. So they need to be engaged with the language. They need to be engaged with the curriculum and the teaching materials, whether that's a textbook, it's Moodle, it's Google Classroom, whatever it is that you're using with your students, there needs to be some engagement from your students. The specific learning tasks that you're using in your classroom, they also need to be engaged with those. They need to be engaged with their peers, which again can be a challenge now that we're all online. And of course, there needs to be engagement with you. So it's still very important to have those bonds between the students and bonds between you and that rapport between you and your students. And these can be a challenge now that we're all in our homes. What ways have you tried to keep your students engaged in one or all of these categories? And you can talk, if you have something you'd like to share, feel free to share things that you did if you are in a regular classroom, or things that you have tried to do to increase your active student engagement now that you're online. We'd love to hear your ideas. And you can send us a voicemail at anchor.fm/TTELT to share. And this week, because this is our last pre-launch episode, I'm going to give you a teaching tip teaser. Did you know that in many educational games, you can borrow and edit the games that have been made by other teachers? This is something that you may already know, but a lot of teachers I've talked to haven't even bothered to look at these educational games because they think that they need to find time to create the games themselves, which would be lovely if we all had time to create these games, wouldn't it? However, one thing that I found was a great time saver for me. As teachers, we talk about this all the time, that it's so great to not have to always reinvent the wheel. If another teacher has already created something, then we can take that idea and adapt it to our teaching situation. And so there are a lot of games that you may not have thought to try because you thought that you had to create them from scratch. Ed Puzzle is a new one to me. It's only been out, I think, in the last year, and this is videos that your students can use, and there's already questions in many of them that teachers have already created. Kahoot also has a lot of things that your teachers have already created, and Kahoot is actually the focus of episode 1. So if you're interested, go ahead and get an account and start looking around, and we're going to talk more specifically about how to use Kahoots next week. And quizzes is another one that I recently started using with my students, which they really enjoy. And also Quizlet. It's another one where you can borrow sets of flashcards that other teachers or groups of students have already created, adapt them for your specific class, and make them more useful for your students. And it's another one that these are all ones that we'll be talking about in future episodes. So, just to make sure we all know, TTELT is a podcast that you can get a new episode of every Thursday at 11 a.m. GMT, which is currently 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a YouTube channel that is released every Thursday at 3 p.m. GMT, which is currently 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's also small group workshops where we talk about engaging teaching tips, and it's one-on-one consultations where you can get personalized teaching tips. So if you want to join the TTELT team and share your ideas, such as a tip that you'd like us to share in the podcast or on the YouTube channel, a journal article or a blog you'd like us to read and discuss, if you'd like to recommend someone to be interviewed for the YouTube channel and podcast, or if you just have questions, comments, or suggestions, we'd love to hear them. So please join our team and go to www.ttelt.org to find out more information. Send us that voicemail at anchor.fm/TTELT. Request more information at tteltinfo@gmail.com. And of course, don't forget to become a member at patreon.com/TTELT. This funding can help make this project more sustainable. So if you have some funding that you'd like to help us with, we'd really appreciate it. However, another way that can help with this program that's completely free is to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date in everything that's happening in TTELT. You can also, especially if you're a teacher, we'd love for you to join our Facebook group at TTELT, where we're talking about the latest teaching tips we've tried. We'd also love for you to follow us at TTELT1 on Twitter and t.telt on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.